this was my first ever Uber Eats account. And, when you sign up for an account, they make you take a picture. And as you guys can see, I don't look the happiest because I wasn't, and I was super stressed on life because my life was nowhere near where I wanted it to be. And so I knew I had to change. And this was when I was getting into Uber Eats, and this is also my DoorDash account with my stats, 47 out of 100, not a good rating. But again, I had to make something work, right? I moved to Florida by myself, and I had to start generating money because I was paying for my own rent, my water bill, everything, even groceries, and I had to start making money. And so this was the only kind of job that I wanted to work because it was so flexible in terms of the time that I was willing to work, and so, yeah, was it the happiest in the beginning? All right. And I'm not going to tell you that, it was super easy in the beginning. It wasn't, right? And again, a little bit more backstory. I was a complete beginner. I never knew, I didn't know shit about drop shipping. Okay. The only thing I knew about was that a lot of kids were making a fuck ton of money, and I wanted to get into it. So mindset. Okay. So the plan, right? In the beginning of your journey, you should always write some sort of plan, right? A written plan of how you're going to achieve what you want to achieve, right? So during 2024, this was actually before I started anything, I essentially wrote a promise to myself, right? I wrote, my end of year goals, my business goals, and my long-term vision, right? I'm not joking. You guys can even see the timestamp here where I was in Florida at the time. I was staying with my cousin when I wrote this. I'm trying to figure out where I was going to live. But I essentially wrote down, my end of year goals. You guys can read it here. My business goals. This was when I was actually trying to learn paid ads, but that went horribly. Shout out organic. And then, my overall long-term vision of, actually understanding a product that will last and making this a long-term, play. I didn't want to be some pump and dump, typical drop shipper that only did this for a couple of months and just fucked off. No, I wanted to make this my full-time thing. Okay. And so after this, I actually started learning and rewiring my mind. Okay. I started learning as much as possible about e-com and essentially rewiring my mind for success, right? I started watching e-com courses on YouTube, just typical dropshipping videos on YouTube as well. I was reading books. I was doing journaling every single solitary day, and I was essentially just eliminating all distractions. Okay. And this was a very pivotal moment within my journey because when I was in high school, I hated fucking reading. But the moment you actually start reading stuff that you personally enjoy, it's actually a whole different ballgame. And so I was really getting into just learning about business. I was learning about just overall mindset, reading these types of books right here, as you guys can see, and essentially journaling every single day about how I was going to achieve these type of goals, and essentially just manifesting absolutely everything. But I was manifesting in a way where I was super intentional about what I was writing down. So for example, I would write down today I will film 4 videos. I will edit for this amount of time. I will make, this website. And so I was super intentional because I knew that with the intention, the results would happen. Because if you're only manifesting and just praying for all these wonderful things that you want in your life and aren't intentional in actually putting in the action, it's not going to happen, right? So this is where it all started. And this is when I started thinking this way. And lastly, I actually changed my lifestyle completely. I went into a full-fledged monk mode. I completely killed my old self, really. I was your typical college bro, loved to party, drink, girls, etc. And I knew that wasn't going to give me the financial freedom that I wanted. And so I went into a full-blown monk mode for months where people literally thought I was dead. And I completely locked in. So during this phase of my life, I quit drinking, I stopped partying, I quit brain rotting on my phone, so I stopped, scrolling on TikTok and Instagram Reels. I essentially changed my environment. I completely moved to another state. I said, fuck it, I got to start fresh. I got to surround myself with people that are actually going to help me towards my goal, not bring me down. And also, stopped hanging out with bums that weren't going to go anywhere. Because again, you are and this is such, you hear this all the time, but you are the product of the 5 people that you hang out with, right? But now I kind of changed my trajectory of I want to hang out with the 5 people that I want to be right? Because I want to achieve a lot of things in life. And for me to get to that place, I need to look up to the people that are closer to my goal, right? And that's just the way I think now. So I went 3 months without any distractions and only focused on me and my business. I sacrificed short-term gratification for long-term. So again, I quit partying. I quit, hanging out with people that didn't serve me well, and, thought about the long-term play, right? The long-term play, of me living financially free, doing whatever I wanted to do, having no boss, and actually making dropshipping work. And so it took, these lonely times during the weekends when everyone else is having fun. You're locked in your room, working on stores, right? And that was a very, very crazy and hard moment for me in my life, because I was essentially just rewiring my whole entire brain and killing my old self. Because again, I was like your typical college bro. I was just fucking partying all day, and it's hard to rewire yourself when that's all you know. So yeah, that was a little bit more about mindset. So intention, right? We're gonna talk a little bit about how to be intentional with your life, right? So before I actually hop into intention, I want to just actually break down the definition so you can understand a little bit better. So intention is a thing intended, and aim or plan. It's a game plan, right? So I want you to read this little note right here that I read from a book, and this is going to really take it home. So desire is the concentration of attention on a goal. Intention is the concentration of attention on moving towards the goal. The driving force behind any action is intention and not desire, right? So what does this actually mean? So a lot of us in the beginning of our journey, if you're watching this video, you have a lot of desires in life, right? You want to become A type of person. You want to, make B type of money a month. You want to have C type of cars, D type of women, right? But, with desire, nothing gets done, right? For this to actually happen in the physical life, not just your dreams, there has to be some sort of intention, right? Physical intention, to where you're actually concentrating all of your attention on moving towards the goal. So actually focusing on the process of reaching that goal, if you understand. Because most of us only focus on the end goal, but not the actual process on how we're going to get there. And so when I switched my mindset in the beginning, and I told myself, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to make 10K a month the first 3 to 6 months of doing this, right? I was prepared to not make money, but I knew that if I focused on the process of getting better, learning skills, and, overall giving it my all, I would make it work, right? Because a lot of us think about the money in the beginning, but money is just an attribute, right, of this business model. If you do good at the business model, if you're going all in on content, if you're going all in on product selection, right, and you're giving it your all every solitary day, money will just come. Money will just be an attribute of those actions, right? So when I learned this, I was like, okay, well, I still have to show up to work every fucking day, right? I was thinking this way, but I was still working as an Uber driver. So what I would do is I would intentionally schedule my days. Okay, so I would work from 4 p.m. all the way to 10 p.m. I would essentially film, edit all my videos before work, right? And then I would post videos throughout the day. So in between calls or whatever, I would just post in the middle of the fucking highway sometimes, my videos for the day. And after work, I'd continue doing product research and learning more about organic. Because again, I was a complete noob. I had no idea what I was doing. And any free time was dedicated to either learning more about organic or, self-development. So going to the gym, eating healthy, praying, meditating, reading, everything, right? And so after this phase, I was in the trenches. I was literally locking myself in my room and filming as many products as I physically could, running 3 to 4 products every single solitary month, and uploading 4 to 6 videos a day with each product, right? And this was a insane moment in my life, because I don't think I've ever worked harder, bro. Like, boys, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I've ever worked harder than this. And you got my first ever product here, the Healing Stock. These are all accounts that you can search up right now and take a look at if you want to see my first ever videos. But essentially, my main goal during this time, during this phase of my life, was to test as many products as physically possible and get as good as I possibly could at making content and video concepts, right? I was super intentional with every piece of content that I was putting out and taking this like a full-fledged business, right? I was literally imagining myself being a CEO and just treating this like a full-fledged business. I wasn't treating this like a side hustle, and many of you do, and that's why you get side hustle results, boys, right? And so when I would, I would get ready for work, and I was just literally thinking about all the videos that I had to post throughout the day and just recording my ass off, right? And as you guys can see, I wasn't getting results, but I was literally just learning. And that's the fundamental thing that I want to talk about. It's just learning a skill in the beginning, no matter the result, because I was ready. I told you guys, I knew that I wasn't going to make any money, but I knew that I was going to learn something from doing all of this, right? Testing all these different video concepts and not seeing the results, right? Eventually, as time went on, posting 4 to 6 videos a day, testing multiple products a month, I eventually got my first ever sale. And believe it or not, this is an actual real screenshot of the healing sock, my first ever product, where I got my first ever sale. Okay. I was in this room, actually, in this very chair. And this was a super pivotal moment for me in my journey. This actually opened my mind and showed me that online money is possible and gave me the reassurance that I was in the right direction. Because I knew with intention, being super intentional with all my content, scheduling absolutely everything in my day-to-day life. If I kept, doing this, I would get more sales. Because again, money is just an attribute of how hard you fucking go, right? And so I was going insanely hard here, and then it translated to $15. Some of you might say it's just $15, but for me, this opened up my mind to literally making it seem like, bro, this is actually possible. Because if I can make $15, I can make $1 million, right? I'm literally making money online by literally filming TikToks. And, that completely changed my mind, okay? But something that I learned from getting my first sale and, being in the trenches for a while is that money should not be the goal, right? I came to the realization that if I focus and get as good as I possibly can with organic and move with intention, money will just be an attribute of my success, right? And this is a perfect example. This is one of my students, Anthony, within my one-on-one mentorship. This guy has been literally trenching since the beginning of, our time together. And every single solitary day, he's blowing up my phone. He's asking a whole bunch of questions, joining every single one-on-one call that we have on a weekly basis and all of the group calls that we have. Never missed a fucking day. And now he's getting the results. But it's because he actually focused on what's important, which was the actual content, the video content, concepts, and actually learning the skill that is going to make him money, right? So when you actually start to focus on what's important, the money will just come. Take that out of your head. Stop only thinking about the money. Think about how you can get better, how you can start recording better videos, how you can start editing better, how you can start, doing better product selection, making better websites, working on your front end, working on your back end, everything, right? And this will just be the result of that, okay? I really want to hammer this down for you boys because this was something that took me a while to freaking learn, okay? And then lastly, the third key pillar here is going to be consistency and speed. So like I said to you guys before, I was running over 3 products at a time while still DoorDashing. I was posting twice a day per product without missing a day. Sometimes I'd post 6 videos a day, no bullshit, on Instagram, because you can do that. And I was doing as much product research as physically possible and perfecting my content and editing skills, right? So again, I was working on these skills to get better. These are some of my old products that I ran in the past. I took a picture of this the other day, and it's crazy because I'm like, holy shit, bro, I ran all these products, and out of all of these, I only had one winner, which was this one, and I'll talk about it a little bit more now. But essentially, I was just being super consistent with absolutely everything. I was never missing a day when it came to posting. I was never missing a day when it came to doing product research. Even if I was, running 3 to 4 products, I would still do product research because I knew there were better products out there, right? So I was super consistent with absolutely everything. My routine was on point, never missed a day, and I was just trying to perfect absolutely everything, right? And so after doing that for a substantial amount of time, after 3 months, right, we actually saw some traction, right? So we went from, very, very low views, 16 followers, to then blowing up for the first ever time and, amassing over 20,000 followers, millions of views, getting insanely good at content, and actually making money, right? So right here is what I made with this first ever winning product of mine. I've done a case study in my YouTube if you want to go watch it. But I made my first ever big boy money with organic. And this was when I was like, okay, I am no longer going to DoorDash. I'm going to quit DoorDash and I'm going to go absolutely all in on this business model because I know it works and that really all I have to do is continue to lock in, focus on my inputs, and my outputs will just be a lot better. And that is exactly what I did, boys. I quit DoorDashing. I went straight into testing more products. Boom. Got an 8,000 follower account here, millions of views again, was getting really good with products and, overall just content, controversy, video concepts, everything, website design, and then boom, started making more money with this account. Started testing more products, started running print on demand products, getting really creative with my designs. Boom, hundreds and thousands of more views, getting better with content, right? Optimizing my websites, making more money. Again, I was running all these products at the same time and I was getting insanely, insanely good, right? Because I truly wanted it, bro. I was like, if I can make $15, I can make millions, bro. And that's literally what started to come into fruition.